Now, Mr. Penguin, I have a book that I like to read this time of year. Would you like to read it with me? You would? You're such a good friend. This book is called Have a Little Pun, and it's got some great pictures. On the cover, it says, "Oh, whale," and it's a picture of a whale. It's illustrated play on words by Frida Clements. Puns are the highest form of literature. Do you know who that's a quote from? That's right, the psychotic murderer himself, Alfred Hitchcock. So many films. You know what's funny, Penguin, is that so many people think that he's just a great horror director, but in reality, they were all crimes he committed. Nobody can prove it, though, so he's still famous. This first page is wonderful. It's a seagull, and it says, "Hey, gull friend," and a gopher that says, "Go for it." I know. It hurts me to read, too. But sometimes that's all we need for the holidays. A little bit of pain to remind us that we're still alive. This one is so good. It's a fawn, and on the other page it's some corn. And the fawn says, "Quite fond of you." And the corn says, "So corny." No, stay there. Stay there. Now on this page, there's a honeybee and a porpoise. And the honeybee says, "Honey, be yourself." And the porpoise says, "Find your porpoise." Next, there's a yak and a sheep. Yak, yak, yak. You crazy. You're so crazy, Mr. Penguin. We have a goat and a kitty cat. The goat says, "Just bleed it." Because that's something goats do. And the cat says, "It's meow or never." That's so true, Mr. Penguin. Oop. Well, there's a bear and some kind of baby animal on here. I never remember what this one is. But it says, "I kid." And the bear says, "Maul about it." Sometimes... Oh, sorry. It says, "Maul about that." Almost like it's all about that. What's that, Mr. Penguin? You need a break? Let's do one more page. Oh, it's a horse and some corgis. It says, "Hey there. Rough day?" I know. You think you're having a rough day, but it'll get better. Sal what? Oh, it's so good. We can read more of that later. Thank you, Mr. Penguin. Thanks for being my friend. Oh, Mr. Penguin, did you see? Some of our holiday decorations fell down. Should we fix those? That seems a little besides the point, Mr. Penguin, but I agree. I'll fix it. But please don't look at my ass. Not after last year, Mr. Penguin. You know what I'm talking about. You had to go to a lot of counseling. Yeah. Oh, Merry Christmas to you too, Mr. Penguin. Thanks. You know, it's getting to be about that time. I know, we really should change for the Christmas party, shouldn't we? Will you be okay here until I come back in my new clothes? Oh, don't worry. Mr. Reindeer is very far away. He can't hurt you anymore. Also, Mr. Reindeer's not even real. So don't worry about it. I'll be right back. Mr. Penguin, my favorite actor came to visit us while I was changing. His name is Bruce Willis. I know, he's bald too, but he didn't used to be. I know, you can hear it, can't you, Mr. Penguin? What's that, Mr. Penguin? Oh, you want to hear more puns? I knew you would. Just like that murderer Alfred Hitchcock said. They're great humor. So first we have a picture of some dill, and then a picture of two deer, and it says dill with it. It says dill with it right there. And then over here it says yes, dear. Part of why this is funny is because that's a boy deer, and that's a lady deer. And this book is filled with very old stereotypes. Holy carp, indeed. Why so crabby? Oh dear, this next one is inappropriate. It's an elk, and it says nice rack. That's certainly not something you could say to your grandmother. Oh no, she would be quite cross. But you could just roll with it like this hedgehog. This beaver just says, I'll be damned. The lion says, for sure. And the fly says, pretty fly. Which is, of course, a euphemism for being cool. Which neither one of us are, Mr. Penguin. But that's why we're together today. Suck it up. This book just knows what to say to me. With a little hummingbird. Robin the Cradle. Dear. This book is quite saucy. Some ants going into a picnic basket and a snail crawling away from a flower say, a little antsy. Snailed it. So here we have some knots and some blue jays. And of course the jay is jaywalking. Oh, and the knots are naughty naughty. Oh, whale. You probably remember that from the front of the book, don't you? There's a woman in the middle of a hailstorm and a bull. It says, what the hail? Total bull. How hilarious. This book's making me so happy right now. I know. It's just so good. Next, we have a fox. And a squirrel. For fox's sake. Aw, nuts. You'll only understand this one if you took vocabulary lessons. But first we have a crow, and then we have a gnome. The crow says murder one. And the gnome says let it be gnome. A group of crows is called a murder. So is what Mr. Reindeer did to your entire family. But don't worry, he's not here. Next, we have a picture of beets and some thyme. It says, Mad Beets, right on time. Next, there's a puppy dog and a rabbit. It says, can you dig it? And bad hair day. Oh, dear. Dogs really are rascally, aren't they, Mr. Penguin? Next, there's some, I think it's called crayfish. At least that's how they want me to say it in this book. And jellyfish. Cray, cray, so jelly. Oh, this book is just lighting my Christmas up. With so much cheer. The popping sound? That's just Christmas for all to hear. Next, there's a tree and another rabbit. It says, birch, please. Don't carrot all. Because rabbits like carrots. Ooh, there's some crustaceans. And then a fish. It says, nice muscles, oh my god. This book is too good. I know. A baby duck. And a pigeon. I'm down. That's cool. It doesn't hurt at all to read any of these, Mr. Penguin. And I don't need a reminder that this was my idea. Boop. Some moss and some morel mushrooms. Moss def, morel support. An annoying cat. And a rocking chair. I need you. Rock on. Peonies. Envy. I don't really understand that one. An oak tree and a tree stump. Okie dokie. I'm stumped. A bird and a tree. And our favorite friend, an otter. I pine for you. Why I oughta. No, that was still me. It wasn't a different person. That was an accent. Yeah, it's where you make your voice sound different. For fun. Oh dear. There's some harsh life advice on these next pages that some people might not want to hear on this holiday season. But I think they'll listen. Make it snappy with a snap pea. And then a cheetah that says once a cheetah, always a cheetah. How delightful. Some koi fish. And a heron. Don't be coy. Heron now. A baby penguin that says not gonna fly. I sure hope they learn how to swim, though. Otherwise, they're gonna get eaten. Some jam and a blue jay. No, sorry, a woodpecker. Like Woody. Knock on wood. That's my jam. Some ocean waves and an owl. Says that's swell. I will be back. Turning yet another page. I know, you can't believe there's more. It's done! And now it's time for Christmas fun. What's Christmas fun, Mr. Penguin? Why, it's Christmas cheer for all to hear. What's better than one type of spirit visiting you on Christmas? Well, two. Now get a whiff of this. That's right. That's the scent of Christmas. And with every pour, another bad feeling will dismiss. I know I'm not feeling well today, Mr. Penguin. Mr. Penguin, you ask a lot of questions. like you're in the clear. But don't forget, I lied. Mr. Reindeer is right here. I see you worrying and shaking with doubt. But Mr. Reindeer's in jail, and he'll never get out. The things that he did were really quite awful. And I can't believe he killed your grandma with a whole Belgian waffle. But that reindeer over there isn't something for which you should care. It's been stuffed and dead. And don't worry, your Christmas present is going to be that murderer's head. I'm sorry, Mr. Penguin. I didn't mean for that joke to affect you. But that reindeer's not real. That's why I have Mr. Bruce Willis to protect you. Mr. Penguin, do you ever wonder, even though you're sitting here just having a nice Christmas, you think about what other people are doing on Christmas? Well, I bet everybody's having the bestest Christmas. People are getting all kinds of toys they want, all kind of gifts they need. It's almost like they're all here with us. Right now. And of course, some people are having a terrible day because they're at work and they can't play. They didn't get any toys and it didn't bring them any joy making lattes on Christmas Day. I've been there before and it was really quite a chore working every single hour just to keep on the power. But sometimes that's what Christmas is. Doing for yours and yours, with or without kids. And sometimes life is hard. Sometimes people bully you just like you're in the schoolyard, and it doesn't make it all right. But I'm telling you that even if it sucks, there's no reason to have a fright, because things get better, Mr. Penguin. Yes, they do. Things get better thanks to hanging out every Christmas with all of you. No, Mr. Penguin, I didn't write that down. It's just a little talent that I picked up around town. Something I've done since I was a kid. It's not that hard to rhyme, but people seem to flip their lid. Another book? Because you're here to stay? What a delightful Christmas day. We have many choices, but on one I will alight. Construction site on Christmas night. I got this one last night while I was shopping at Target. While listening to some child get screamed at by a lady named Margaret. It was very irritating, and it definitely made me sad, but I understand. I mean, life's hard without a dad. At least that's my assumption. It's not like it was very clear. I mean, the woman was there screaming at the girl. Very clear. And she kept saying dad, and he wasn't around, and who am I to know what happened last night around town? There was a car accident, and obviously everybody's drunk, or maybe he just ran off into the forest because of a skunk. I don't understand why you're judging me, but you're right. Despite the point of that story, I am a little pudgy. Construction Site on Christmas Night by Sherry Dusky Rinker and A.G. Ford. Down in the big construction site, there's work to do on Christmas night. The last big project of the year. The team is slamming into gear. We have all sorts of trucks. All sorts of trucks, Mr. Penguin. Not to mention some kind of backhoe. So much is riding on the crew, they have a major job to do. A special house is being built. The trucks are racing at full tilt. This important work can't wait. They'll get it done and make it great. You can see right there, they're digging the foundation. Digging it right out. Bulldozer's deadline is almost here, and he has a lot of ground to clear. Working at full speed all day. Roar! He pushes hard to clear the way. For hours, he powers this way and that, and clears the site. In no time flat. I don't know why they added that sound effect. It broke up the feel of the story. It shouldn't have had the sound effect, Mr. Penguin. I agree. He turns away to end his shift, but in his way, a massive gift! With cable ribbon from the yard, it's topped off with a thank you card. An awesome carbon steel blade, custom paint job, custom made. Merry Christmas, Bulldozer. Good night. And look, he's got a brand new shovel. Front shovel. Which is what I call my penis sometimes, Mr. Penguin. I'm kidding. I call it the CEO. That's something you should already know. Eviscerator has no time to spare. He's rolling, digging everywhere. Scooping, chugging at full blast. The sound effects again. He digs up the foundation fast. Clouds roll in, a brisk wind blows. A snowflake falls right on his nose, which is definitely something an excavator has. The clock in town begins to chime. His job's done right, and right on time. He's working very hard. As excavator rolls away, slowing down to end his day, he stops and he can't believe his eyes. Someone's left a big surprise. The card says, "Thanks for all you do," and it's simply signed, "From the crew." Look, a shiny yellow scoop. His old one had a broken tooth. Merry Christmas, excavator. Good night. Aw. I know it is special. The gifts are important. They make people's lives better. Isn't it amazing, Mr. Penguin, how with just a little gift, you can give somebody's life a great big shift? That even people who might be mad, and even the people who might be sad, can change it all around and just feel glad. Because of the great friends they didn't know they had. Cement mixer has concrete to pour. He lays foundation, walls, and floor. Then he churns another load that will be used to make a road. A road! He twirls, he rolls, he spins and pours. In record time, he's done his chores. Look at how hard he's working. He's working so hard. He's pouring all of that cement and telling all of his haters they can get fucking bent. He rolls away to take a bath, but something's sitting in his path. A giant box, his name's on top. He rumbles to a grinding stop. No card, no note. Well, who's it from? Who could have left it? A brand new drum? His drum is old, beat up, and plain. But this one looks like a candy cane. You see? You see, Mr. Penguin? I know it's hard. It's very small, Mr. Penguin. An icy wind blows in his face, but dump truck revs up to keep the pace. His back is sore, his tires are shot, but dump truck gives it all he's got. As soon as there's nothing left to haul, he slows his engine to a crawl. Dump truck is such a fun name. It's what people used to call me before I won the big game. That's right, dump truck. From kids both big and small, dump truck. Because I shit my pants right there in the hall. It was high school. 2002. And what's a boy with diarrhea to do? Try and escape class when he raises his hand, but the teacher ignores him because he should just be a man. But the teacher doesn't care that I have to shit. He makes me sit there and wait and wait and wait for it. And by the time the school bell rang, well, my pants, they hit the ground, and my belt buckle rang, announcing to everyone to look at my stool, filling my pants just like a pool. Anyway, the dump truck. He turns to go, but stops in awe, the biggest box he ever saw. He blows his stack, his engine fires. It's fresh! A fresh new set of tires. Midnight black with thick, tough tread. He trucks the old ones in his bed. Merry Christmas. And good night, dump truck. With whipping winds and loads that sway, Crane Truck's job is tough today. But he keeps working right along, bravely lifting firm and strong. It's getting darker with each pass, but cane truck's work is done at last. And when life is hard and makes things weird, and you think you have problems that you've never cleared, you're probably right. Things will start anew, but you can handle it. Every single one of you. Who am I talking to, you ask? Why, any passing listeners who are watching me enjoy this cask. The job's all finished. One last stop. Crane truck puts a star on top. But Crane has one last thing to lift. Someone's left a special gift. A rock'em sock'em wrecking ball. It's all red and green and 10 feet tall. Merry Christmas. Good night. Crane truck. With that new ball, you know he's going to get some fuck. Engines rev and bells ring out. Sirens blare and horns shout. Down the road and up the drive, a fleet of bright red trucks arrive. Driving proudly, looking fine. Pumpers. Ladders. All in line. Cars and rescue trucks join too. Bright and shiny rolling through. It's the town's new fire crew. Driving in a train just for you. On this nearly Christmas night, they find a new home built just right. And with a joyful roll and spin, the fire trucks move on right in. Turn off ignitions and settle down and look about the sleepy town. All grateful for this special day, helpful friends at work and play for all that's given and received. And all that's blessed on Christmas Eve. I know. I didn't know it was Christmas Eve either, Mr. Penguin. They gave us no context to know what time it was. There's no cops. I wonder why they didn't mention the fuzz. Still, all the trucks are tucked in tight. Merry Christmas and good night. And there's the sleepy town. And Mr. Penguin, if you're looking for more books like this, you can also check out the other big hits. Good Night, Construction Site. And Mighty Mighty Construction Site. I believe they'd put any child to sleep, regardless of the night. Bruce Willis is fantastic Tinder this year. Did you hear about his roast? They kicked his ass. Loud and clear. Or perhaps it was years last. I'm not sure. Do you want to teach the rest of the class? I'm sorry, Mr. Penguin. I have no reason to get cross. It's just been a little bit too much of the sauce. What's that downstairs I think I hear? Why, it's my wife's noises of Christmas cheer. Sounds like she is talking to a friend. I better find out what's going on, or I might be tricked in the end. Some sort of nefarious plot. I'm up here, and she's all I got. I mean, really, she's fantastic. She's really damn great. And have you seen the kind of food she puts on my plate? I definitely don't deserve it, and that's to be clear. If I'm Santa, then she's definitely the reindeer. Shh, don't tell her that. She'll probably get mad. It sounds kind of rude. And since I'm not a dad, I can't play it off as a pun, but I'll just go say, "Hi, hun," just for a second, and I'll be right back. Don't worry, don't worry, don't worry. Don't worry. Back in a snap. Oh dear, Mr. Penguin! My chair was almost less comfortable. No, there's no reason to call a constable. It was just a mistake, and it was all my own. Trying to make a little bit more comfy happen on my throne. Now, I know, Mr. Penguin, you took quite delight in my reading of Construction Site on Christmas night, and I promise you, Mr. Penguin, there will be more books to read, but for now, on this Christmas spirit, I think I'll feed. Just like you do with all of the fish. Ah, I'm kidding, you stupid little bitch. Don't worry. That means that I like you. Insults, yes, yes, yes. They mean that I like you. A story about stupid people? That's what you want to hear? A story about stupid people for Mr. Penguin, loud and clear. Stupid people are people like anyone else. They just happen to get their intelligence from somewhere that's not on the top shelf. And their parents try very, very hard. They buy them all of the smart books. They tell them to play in the yard, but that's the problem. With stupid people, you see, they're just stupid. Not like you and me. Their parents taught them how to read, how to cook. They bought them every single scholastic school day book. In fact, some say stupid people look just like us. No, don't be scared. And don't you dare cuss. Fuck! Stupid people are very scary. They try to look up similes in a dictionary. That's a joke you only understand if you know the difference between a dictionary and thesaurus. Don't worry. I'm going to rhyme this as you thought with the word Tyrannosaurus. Anyway, back to stupid people. That's where we were. They celebrate Christmas. They bring the frankincense. They bring the myrrh. But every single year they age, their mind never turns a page. And even though they may say they're 26, it's less than 13 if you look at their birth permits. Stupid people are special and stupid people are grand. Stupid people are the kind of people that get by because, you know, other people hold their hand. But the second they have access to the internet, they get into chat rooms and they cause quite a fit. They say dumb things so other people will read it. I know, it's true, even though you haven't seen it. They should probably put it on newspaper or, like, on the outside of bars to make sure everybody knows where all the stupid people are. But they're on the internet, behind fake usernames, you see, and they try and attack all sorts of fantastic people like you and me. But listen, Mr. Penguin, this is of great import. They call themselves trolls, and they do what they do as a sport. So stupid people are trolls, and that's the way it is. And, well, if you ask me, all trolls probably end up living under a bridge. Mr. Penguin, I agree. Cheese is fantastic for science. Perhaps we'll have cheese as a guest next year. Form a Christmas alliance. What's that, Mr. Penguin? Excuse me? You're drunk as fuck? Well, maybe you should just shut the hell up. Huh? Look what she did. Look at all this shit. I fixed it. Even without all your stupid little Boy Scout kits. You think you're better than me just because you're a penguin? Huh? Keep talking shit. I'll write your ma. What, you think this isn't Christmas enough? You think what I'm wearing is not tough? I'll have you know this sweater has a bell. I'll come back. I'll come back and I'll show you the best thing you've ever seen for Christmas. And then you could go to hell. There you go, Mr. Penguin. Eat shit. 6-pack abs. Suck my dick. Mr. Penguin, did you know that Santa Claus has quite a scare when he knows that Mrs. Claus is there? What's that, Mr. Penguin? Something to read? How about a good story? A good story about greed. Well, this is a story about a man named the Grinch who thought that turning off Christmas was quite the cinch. But he learned a few things along the way, and that's why his heart grew 3 times that day. Apologies if you've never heard the story. I just thought you had, and I didn't want you to think it was boring. Oh, no, I get it. That's a joke. You got me, Mr. Penguin. I thought I was going to choke. How the Grinch Stole Christmas. For Teddy Owens. By Dr. Seuss. Every Who down in Whoville liked Christmas a lot. But the Grinch, who lived just north of Whoville, did not. The Grinch hated Christmas. The whole Christmas season. Now, please don't ask why. No one quite knows the reason. It could be his head wasn't screwed on just right. It could be, perhaps, his shoes were too tight. But I think that most likely, the season of all may have been that his heart was 2 sizes too small. But whatever the reason, his heart or his shoes, he stood there on Christmas Eve hating the Who's, staring down from his cave with a sour, grinchy frown at the warm lighted windows below it in their town, for he knew every Who down in Whoville beneath was busy now, hanging a mistletoe wreath. And they're hanging their stockings, he snarled with a sneer. Tomorrow is Christmas. It's practically here. Then he growled with his Grinch fingers nervously drumming. I must find some way to stop Christmas from coming. Winky face, let's get back to the reading. My vocal percussion is drumming. For tomorrow he knew. All the Who girls and Who boys would wake bright and early and then rush for their toys. Oh, and then, oh, the noise. The noise, 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 noise! That's one thing he hated. The noise, noise, noise. Noise. And then the Who's, young and old, would sit down to a feast. And they'd feast, and they'd feast, and they'd feast, 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 feast. They would feast on Who pudding and rare Who roast beast, which was something the Grinch couldn't stand in the least. And then they'd do something he liked least of all. Every Who down in Whoville, the tall and the small, would gather close with Christmas bells ringing, and they'd stand hand in hand. The Who's would start singing. They'd sing and they'd sing. And they'd sing, 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 sing. And the more the Grinch thought of this Who Christmas sing, the more the Grinch thought, I must stop this whole thing. Why, for 53 years I've put up with it now. I must stop this Christmas from coming. But how? Then he got an idea. An awful idea. The Grinch got a wonderful, awful idea. One you might say could come from IKEA. Such an awful, terrible, yet simple idea. I know just what to do, the Grinch laughed in his throat. And he made a quick Christmas Claus hat and a coat. And then he chuckled and chuckled. What a great Grinchy trick! With this coat and this hat, I look just like Saint Nick. All I need is a reindeer, and the Grinch looked around. But since reindeer are so scarce, there were none to be found. Did that stop the old Grinch? No, the Grinch simply said, if I can't find a reindeer, I'll make one instead. So he called his dog Max. Then he took some red thread and he tied a big horn on the top of his head. Then, Mr. Penguin, then he loaded some bags, some old empty sacks on a ramshackle sleigh, and he hitched up old Max. Then the Grinch said, "Giddy up!" And the sleigh started down towards the homes where the Who's lay a snooze, all in their town. And here you can see the Grinch being a badass motherfucker. Only the Grinch is that bad, there's no other. All their windows were dark, quiet, snow filled the air. All the Who's were all dreaming sweet dreams without care. Then he came to the first little house on the square. This is stop number 1. The old Grinchy claws hissed, and he climbed to the roof, empty bags in his fist. Then he slid down the chimney. A rather tight pinch. But if Santa could do it, well, so could the Grinch. He got stuck only once for a moment or two. Then he stuck his head out of the fireplace flue. There were little Who's stockings all hung in a row. These stockings, he grinned, are the first things to go. Then he slithered and slunk with a smile most unpleasant. Around the whole room, he took every present. Pop guns and bicycles, roller skates, drums, checkerboards, tricycles, popcorn, and plums. Then he stuffed them in bags, and then the Grinch, very nimbly, stuffed all the bags, one by one, up the chimney. Then he slunk to the icebox. He took the Who's feast. He took the Who pudding. He took the roast beast. He cleaned out the icebox as quick as a flash. Why, that Grinch even took their last can of Who hash. See, the Who's were asleep, Mr. Penguin, quite stoned. Because every Who in Whoville, well, a dispensary they owned. Little weed shacks, never quite in shambles, paid for all the Who pudding, roast beast, and their brambles. And then he stuffed all the food up the chimney with glee. And now, grinned the Grinch, I will stuff up the tree. And then the Grinch grabbed the tree and he started to shove. Then he heard a small sound, like the coo of a dove. Then he turned around fast, and he saw a small who. Little Cindy Lou who was no more than 2. The Grinch had been caught by his tiny who daughter, who'd got out of bed to get a cup of cold water. She stared at the Grinch. Santa Claus, why? Why are you taking our Christmas tree? Why? Some might be thinking Whoville's in Colorado. And you'd be right, Whoville's not hard to get to if you have a mobile. Type auto. But you know that old Grinch was so smart and so slick, he thought of a lie. He thought it up quick. Why, my little sweet tot, the fake Santa lied. There's light on this tree that won't light on one side. So I'm taking it home to my workshop, my dear. I'll fix it up there, and then I'll bring it back here. And then his fib fooled the child. Then he patted her head, and he got her a drink, and he sent her to bed. And when Cindy Lou Who went to bed with her cup, he went to the chimney and stuffed that tree up. Then the last thing he took was a log in their fire. He went up the chimney himself, the old liar. On their walls he left nothing but hooks and some wire, and the one speck of food that he left in the house was a crumb that was even too small for a mouse. Then he did the same thing to the other Who houses, leaving crumbs much too small. Leaving crumbs much too small for the other Who's mouses. And here is the Grinch and all the presents he took. What a piece of shit! Can you believe they wrote about him in a book? It was 1:15 dawn all the Who's still abed. All the Who's still a snooze. When he packed up his sled. Packed it up with their presents, their ribbons, the wrappings, the tags, the tinsel, the trimmings, the trappings. All of it. That's what he took. He shoved it all inside of this, I don't know, Christmas bag breakfast nook. "3,000 feet up the side of Mount Crumpet. He rode his load. He rode with his load. Oh, dear. To the tip-top to dump it. Pooh-pooh, all the Who's. It was clear. He was Grinchiously humming. They're finding out now that no Christmas is coming. They're fine just waking up. I know what they'll do. Their mouths will hang open a minute or two. And then the Who's down in Whoville will all cry, "Boo-hoo!" "That's a noise," grinned the Grinch, "that I simply must hear." So he paused. And the Grinch put his hand to his ear. And he did hear a sound rising over the snow. It started in low and then started to grow. But the sound wasn't sad. Why, the sound sounded merry. It couldn't be so. But it was merry. Very! He stared down at Whoville. A Grinch popped his eyes, then he shook. What he saw was a shocking surprise. Every Who down in Whoville, the tall and the small, was singing without any presents at all. He hadn't stopped Christmas from coming. It came! Somehow or other, it came just the same. And the Grinch, with his Grinch feet ice cold in the snow, stood puzzling and puzzling. How could it be so? It came without ribbons. It came without tags. It came without packages, boxes, or bags. He puzzled 3 hours, till his puzzler was sore. Then the Grinch thought of something he hadn't before. Maybe Christmas, he thought, doesn't come from a stone. Maybe Christmas... Oh, sorry, he said it doesn't come from a store. That's important, so it rhymes. You'll see, it's no chore. Maybe Christmas, perhaps, means a little bit more. And what happened then? Well, in Whoville, they say that the Grinch's small heart grew 3 sizes that day. And the minute his heart didn't feel so tight, he whizzed with his load. through the bright morning light. And he brought back the toys and the food for the feast, and he himself, the Grinch, carved the roast beast. And that, Mr. Penguin, is a story of how we can learn. Even when there's nothing out there, we can discern that Christmas time is a time to give, a time to smile, and a time to live, a time to see people we haven't seen in a while, give them a little Christmas smile. And even if you think all of that is bullshit, believe me, the folks you smile at don't think it. And just like Mr. Grinch, we can celebrate Christmas like it's here to stay. And that's how the Grinch stole Christmas. Read to you on Christmas Day. Mr. Penguin, I am quite happy that you don't think my Santa costume is sappy. What did you have for Christmas brunch? Oh, I had some French toast that tasted like Cinnamon Toast Crunch. What's that, Mr. Penguin? Your most favorite story of all? You want me to read that? Even though it's close to last call? Are you sure that thing's a sequel? There's no way it can be good. Okay. I mean, whatever flies in your neighborhood. I mean, you are a penguin, and that's to be sure. And, like, I'm sure mom's not a whore. That's a joke. Don't need to, get all offended. If I was you, I would have just, gotten mad when season 8 of Scrubs ended. We don't talk about season 9. That isn't real. Okay? Let's talk about Kevin and his mass appeal. Home Alone 2 is the name of the book. And inside, Mr. Penguin thinks we should all take a look. Home Alone 2 Lost in New York. Based on the film written by John Hughes and directed by Chris Columbus. Now, wait a minute. That can't be real. Chris Columbus, that belongs to another holiday reel. I think he's got his own. This is a little bit selfish. Talking about Christmas? But your name's Columbus? That's hellish. It makes me quite sad, but I guess we'll see exactly why Kevin is yelling at this tree. Nice feet, I'm sure someone would say. You can masturbate as much as you want. All day. 'Twas 3 nights before Christmas, and the McAllister family was getting ready for their vacation to Florida. Everyone was busy packing. Oh, this doesn't rhyme. We're gonna have to make it happen, huh, Mr. Penguin? Everyone was busy packing except Dad. He was slacking. Except for Kevin, who didn't want to go. Why do we have to go to Florida for Christmas? Said Kevin. He had to know. They have palm trees instead of Christmas tree theirs. I wish I could go on my own vacation alone, Kevin shouted while everyone stared. I'll have the best time of my life, but nobody listened. They went to the airport the next day while the Christmas lights glistened. It was crowded and noisy. Kevin needed to blow his nose, so he borrowed his dad's bag for a tissue, I suppose. His family rushed on. Wait up, yelled Kevin, and ran after them, but nobody saw them. Well, poor Kevin. He finally caught up to his dad and boarded the plane at the very last minute. And when the plane finally landed, Kevin looked out the window and said, "Wait a minute." He saw buildings very tall with lots of snow. It didn't look like Florida, so where did he go? When Kevin got off the plane, his family was nowhere to be seen. He said, "Yikes, I did it again." Professor Broman really tried to make that rhyme, but he's making all of this up, so please just give it to him this time. At first, Kevin was scared, but then he realized this was his last chance to do whatever he wanted on vacation. In his eyes, he discovered New York City was a magical place to celebrate Christmas. So he started the race. He rode around in a cab, saw the Statue of Liberty, went to the top of the tallest building to see what he could see. He walked through Central Park. And there was a wallet in his dad's bag, so Kevin checked into the fanciest hotel in the city without any lag. There was no one to tell him what to do, so Kevin watched lots of TV and ate his feelings too. The next day was Christmas Eve, and Kevin took a limousine to the biggest toy store New York had ever seen. Duncan's Toy Chest was the name on the sign, and every child was there from New York because it was quite divine. He met the store's owner, Mr. Drunken, to which Kevin said, I like your toys. You don't have a lot of hair on your head. Duncan said the money from the store on Christmas Eve would go to a children's hospital to create more ease. Kevin gave him his entire allowance. He thought the kids in the hospital needed it more than he did. Quite the confoundance. To thank Kevin, Mr. Duncan gave him a pair of special ornaments. Turtle doves are a symbol of friendship. So use them for friendship, not ordnance. Weaponry was the reference there. And if you don't understand that, then, I don't know, shave your hair. Kevin left the store and looked at his map for directions. He wanted to visit the biggest Christmas tree in the city, but he felt trapped. And then here it came on the shoulder, tap, tap. It was the Wet Bandits from the first movie. On the attack. Tonight we're going to rob the toy store, and you're going to leave us alone, so it's such a bore. Kevin ran away as fast as he could across to Central Park, through all of the different neighborhoods. He ran so fast he tripped, his foot got caught. But a woman who was friends with lots of pigeons let him free, so it wasn't for naught. The bird lady told Kevin she lived in the park. Kevin was shocked because she was out after dark. Kevin thanked her for helping him and promised he would come back and visit, which he will do later. Don't worry. You won't miss it. But first, Kevin had to stop the burglars from robbing the toy store and a nearby abandoned house looked smart. He made a plan, and it wasn't a chore. Operation Ho-Ho, he gave it a name to make sure all of the bandits would leave crippled and lame. He poured goo on the floor and tried to paint ropes. He lined it with bags of flour and laid down tripwire for all of these dopes. He scattered tools in the hallway, painted stairs with grease. And then Kevin went back to the toy store, knowing that the terror of Harry and Marv would cease. The burglars chased Kevin to the abandoned house. They stumbled into his traps, making quite a lot more noise than a mouse. They tripped and fell and got hit by paint. And I'm pretty sure right here, that guy's getting hit in the taint. BB guns and slime, what was the matter? They tripped and the tools down the hallway, fell down the stairs. They can't get out without a ladder. But as Kevin snuck away, the burglars stopped him. And they chased after him in Central Park. And then they got him. I know, the rhyming is bad. Especially in this part, it's incredibly sad. There is just so much to this tale that I thought I'll phone it in on this page like Limp Bizkit did. The financial whales. Yes, did you know Limp Bizkit and Fred Durst, who streams on Twitch, and I heard he's not the worst. Everyone from Limp Bizkit is happy. But Kevin's Christmas is about to get quite a lot more crappy. Suddenly, the bird lady appeared and threw out bird seed. And yes, it was very weird. The bandits ran away, and Kevin found a tree. And he understood everything Christmas could be. And then he heard a familiar voice. His mother was there, this time by choice. She flew on a plane and clocked in her brain because Kevin was there. And the rest of the family did refrain. Kevin's whole family was at the hotel, and Christmas gifts were there. How they got there, Kevin would never tell. I made up most of this book, my friend, but here you go, the final picture at the end. A Christmas special's not much unless there's fantastic rhyming and, of course, excellent comedic timing. Not a creature is stirring, but that guy's aroused. Did you hear that Jeff Kaplan did something to raise the eyebrows? Well, that's interesting. That's not to say the least, but I think there's a few better ways to enjoy our Christmas feast. I mean, you can sit in front of a fire and put together some shit, but only one person has a Christmas special with Santa Claus abs in it. So if you think it's the same, I guess that's okay, but you can just fuck off and go the hell away. What's that, Mr. Penguin? You think I should change? You think six-pack Santa looks a little deranged? I don't disagree, but you really are quite a bother. Spending Christmas with you is like spending Christmas with, well, your father. That's fine, Mr. Penguin. I guess I'll change. But you think about what you did right there in your brains. Oh, I'll talk to you in a second, Mr. Penguin. I don't just come when you beckon. I am my own Santa Claus. You understand? And this was my penultimate costume, you tiny beaked man. What is it you're thinking, you might ask? Well, it was Space Jam! And I was up to the task. However, upon putting on my fantastic costume, there was slightly more of my body showing than I would like people to consume. Nuts and balls on full display. And Twitch don't get to see that full array. You know, Mr. Penguin, if I was streaming today, wherever I was at, I'd be happy to see smilers in my chat. But alas, here it is just you and me. And Morty filled with alcohol, see? I guess Christmas does mean more with others. You're all together, staying warm under the covers of friendship, of joy, well, of everything. That's what Christmas joy does bring. A smiling Morty with more alcohol than necessary to knock you on your ass, or an empty bottle that you've been using as a flask. Christmas time is exactly what we all need. So Merry Christmas to all, and all Godspeed. Merry Christmas, everyone! From me and Mr. Penguin, from Mr. Reindeer and Mr. Television. I'm happy that you're all here and that none of this is in smell-o-vision. And let's not forget my main man, Bruce, who came in hefty before Dr. Seuss' Die Hard, the Christmas movie. I don't care what you think, that's what it is. It's on Christmas. And Christmas ain't just for kids. Merry Christmas, everyone! And Merry Christmas to all you adult kids. Thank you for tuning in to the Christmas special. And remember, when you're starting off your Christmas celebrations, put Bruce Willis on your threshold. A Christmas movie, Die Hard, is, but don't forget, it's for the kids.